Hello, and thank you for joining me once again. Today, I want to share with you an allegory of life's journey. This was actually a dream about a group of people's life journey. This dream talks about priorities, it talks about challenges and difficulties, it talks about faith, and it talks ultimately about eternity. This dream is taken from a book called Life Sketches by a writer by the name of Ellen White. While at Battle Creek, Michigan in August 1868, I dreamed of being with a large body of people. A portion of this assembly started out prepared to journey. We had heavily loaded wagons. As we journeyed, the road seemed to ascend. On one side of this road was a deep precipice, on the other was a high, smooth, white wall. As we journeyed on, the road grew narrower and steeper. In some places, it seemed so very narrow that we concluded that we could no longer travel with the loaded wagons. We then loosed them from the horses, took a portion of the luggage from the wagons, and placed it upon the horses and journeyed on horseback. So, this first step of the journey seems that they they left with loaded wagons, but at some point it became too dangerous to continue. So, they just picked up some of the stuff from the wagons and put them on horseback. So they continued on the horseback. Now I want to ask you, if it was you, what would you take when you had to leave the wagons and just go with the horses? What would be some of the things that you would decide to take with you? Let's continue. As we progressed, the path still continued to grow narrow. We were obliged to press close to the wall to save ourselves from falling off the narrow road down the steep precipice. As we did this, the luggage on the horses pressed against the wall and caused us to sway towards the precipice. We feared that we should fail and be dashed in pieces on the rocks. We then cut the luggage from the horses and it fell over the precipice. We continued on horseback, greatly fearing, as we came to the narrower places in the road, that we should lose our balance and fall. At such times, a hand seemed to take the bridle and guide us over the perilous way. As the path grew more narrow, we decided that we could no longer go with safety on horseback. So we left the horses and went on foot in single file, one following in the footstep of another. At this, small cords were let down from the top of the pure white wall. These we eagerly grasped to aid in keeping our balance upon the path. As we traveled, the cord moved along with us. The path finally became so narrow that we concluded that we could travel more safely without our shoes. So we slipped them off from our feet and went on some distance without them. Soon it was decided that we could travel more safely without our stockings. These we removed and we journeyed on with bare feet. So they started with a wagon. They had to leave the wagons. Then they put the luggage on the horses. They had to get rid of the luggage from the horses. They had to leave the horses behind. They even had to take their shoes off, their socks, and so forth. Now they are barefoot. We move on. We then thought of those who had not been accustomed to privations and hardships. Where were such now? They were not in the company. At every change, some were left behind, and those only remained who had accustomed themselves to endure hardships. The privations of the way only made those more eager to press on to the end. So it's important that in our life we have our struggles, we have our share of hardships, because these can toughen us, that can give us some experience with challenges in our life to overcome and to push on. Our danger of falling from the pathway increased. We pressed close to the white wall, yet could not place our feet fully upon the path, for it was too narrow. We then suspended nearly our whole weight upon the cords, exclaiming, "We have hold from above! We have hold from above!" The same words were uttered by all the company in the narrow pathway. As we heard the sounds of mirth and revelry that seemed to come from the abyss below, we shuddered. We heard the profane oath, the vulgar jest, and low, vile songs. We heard the war song and the dance song. We heard instrumental music and loud laughter, mingled with cursing and cries of anguish and bitter wailing, and were more anxious than ever to keep upon the narrow, difficult pathway. Much of the time we were compelled to suspend our whole weight upon the cords. By this time, these increased in size as we progressed. I noticed that the beautiful white wall was stained with blood. It caused a feeling of regret to see the wall thus stained. This feeling, however, lasted but for a moment, as soon I thought that it was all as it should be. Those who are following after will know that others have passed the narrow, difficult way before them, and will conclude that if others were able to pursue their onward course, they can do the same. And as the blood shall be pressed from their aching feet, they will not faint with discouragement, but seeing the blood upon the wall, they will know that others have endured the same pain. At length, we came to a large chasm at which our path ended. There was nothing now to guide our feet, nothing upon which to rest them. Our whole reliance must be upon the cords, which had increased in size until they were as large as our bodies. Here we were for a time thrown into perplexity and distress. We inquired in fearful whispers, "To what is the cord attached?" My husband was just before me. Large drops of sweat were falling from his brow, the veins in his neck and the temples were increased to double their usual size, and suppressed, agonizing groans came from his lips. The sweat was drooping from my face, and I felt such anguish as I had never felt before. A fearful struggle was before us. Should we fail here, all the difficulties of our journey would have been for naught. Before us, on the other side of the chasm, was a beautiful field of green grass about 6 inches high. I could not see the sun, but bright, soft beams of light resembling fine gold and silver were resting upon this field. Nothing I had seen upon earth could compare in beauty and glory with this field. But could we succeed in reaching it? This was the anxious inquiry. Should the cord break, we must perish. Again, in whispered anguish, the words were breathed. What holds the cord? For a moment, we hesitated to venture. Then we exclaimed, "Our only hope is to trust wholly to the cord. It had been our dependence all the difficult way. It will not fail us now." Still, we were hesitating and distressed. The words were then spoken. God holds the cord. We need not fear. These words were then repeated by those behind us, accompanied with, "He will not fail us now. He has brought us thus far in safety." My husband then swung himself over the fearful abyss into the beautiful field beyond. I immediately followed, and oh, what a sense of relief and gratitude to God we felt. I heard voices raised in triumphant praise to God. I was happy, perfectly happy. I woke up. And I found that from the anxiety I had experienced in passing over the difficult route in my dream, every nerve in my body seemed to be in a tremor. This dream needs no comment. It made such an impression upon my mind that probably every item in it will be vivid before me while my memory shall continue. Friends, in Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14, Jesus tells us the following words: Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter through it. But the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and there are few who find it. I hope that this story has helped to encourage you and to fill you with determination, to fill you with stubbornness, that you will continue on the narrow way, that you will not give up, that you will put your faith in God, and in spite of whatever challenges and difficulties you may experience in your daily life, that you will rely completely on God because He is faithful. He has not failed us so far, and He will not fail us until the end. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. Again, if you would like to subscribe to my channel, if you like to click the notification button to be notified when I post new videos, please do so. And also, please share this video with somebody that may be encouraged by it. Thank you again, and have a good day.